Hello and welcome to a special podcast of the Gooner Ramble featuring me, the host, and please be a bit gentle with me. I've never hosted before, but I'm Akhil. With me today I have regular Giles.
Good afternoon, Akhil.
And Giles is normally the host, so, I thought he talks a little bit too much for my liking, so let's get him on the side.
Yeah, it's not like you say enough. Yeah,
exactly. And I've got a French journalist, Julien Laurens, with us. Hi, Julien.
Hello, boys.
Nice to have you with us again. So we're speaking on the back of a North London derby, where a Frenchman, made us all very happy. And that Frenchman wasn't Thierry Henry or Robert Pires or even Arsene Wenger. It was Mr Flamini. Julien, how did Mr Flamini play last night?
He played so well. He played really, really well. And, I'm happy for him because the season hasn't been easy so far. He hadn't played, not even a minute before last night, before Wednesday evening. So, I was really happy for him. And I think, he surprised everybody. He probably surprised himself as well with the 2 goals, especially the second one. But even the first one, to be in that position, which is very much so a number 9 position, to follow up after a shot from your teammate was very surprising. And to see him, taking that volley so well on the second goal as well was very surprising as well. So I think Wenger was probably very surprised. All the squad was surprised, and Mathieu was surely surprised as well. But it's good that in certain games you've got very unlikely heroes like him, who can do things like that because I think the team needed that kind of performance from him or from someone else. But it was good for him that he delivered.
I think he looked very surprised as well, to be honest. At the end, when he came over, and he just looked completely shocked. But I did think the second goal, to get that from the sky, and he actually covered a lot of ground as well. He was actually running quite fast. He had his eye on the ball, and, the technique in that. I think most strikers would be proud of that. What do you think, Giles?
I thought it was excellent. Just as you said, he ran up to the ball, take it from the sky. If you look at the final few steps before he actually takes the shot, he actually gets his stride pattern absolutely right, so that his head was over the ball. Everything, it was just like textbook fashion. It was a textbook volley, and what a way to win a North London derby.
Yeah, absolutely. But Mr Flamini's not really played, as Julien said, first appearance. In the summer he was rumoured to, it's quite well said that Arsenal kind of were willing to let him go, made him available, but for whatever reason he didn't go. And Arsene Wenger was asked this yesterday, how close Flamini was to leaving, and in typical Wenger fashion, he didn't quite answer the question, which I don't blame him. But Jules, how close was he from leaving, in your opinion?
Well, I think he obviously asked himself the question, do I want to stay here, knowing that it would be very difficult because Francis Coquelin did so well that for the last 6 months of last season, that Mathieu knew there wouldn't be much of an opportunity in that position, with Santi being repositioned in that central role as well a lot, with Arteta still being the club captain. So he knew that in the pecking order it was probably number 4, so it was obviously not ideal. And I think he thought about it. He thought what do I want to do? I think he's very happy. Arsenal feels it's a very special club for him because he came here after Marseille when he was really young, and even if at the start of his first time at the club, the start was maybe not great. He finished quite well, and then it was always his dream to play in Italy, and thanks to Arsenal he realized that dream, and then for him, leaving Italy, there was only one place, there was 2 places to come back. It was either Marseille, but that was never going to happen because of the money he was on, or there was Arsenal. And I think, Arsene saw it as a good opportunity for a free contract, a free player to bring him back to the club. So I think it was always a dilemma, a bit of do I want to leave and maybe, let's say, go back to France where the level would be, much, much lower and play a bit more, stay at Arsenal and try to find for my place, maybe not play much, but at least I'll be there, I'll be available if there's a few injuries or suspensions, and I can show what I can do when I've got the opportunity. And the thing with Mathieu, and we've known each other for a very long time, is that he has high standard for himself, to start with, and like every football player, he's got a high opinion of himself, but also the people he plays with and the clubs he plays at. And, he's not the kind of guy, even at 31, who said like, okay, I can go in Corsica, where my family is from, where I've got family, and play for Bastia in the French top flights, and have a pre-retirement, couple of years, and then retire there. That's not, in his mind, he's such a competitor. He's a very, he's a fighter. He likes to fight for his place. He likes to fight to win the game. That's what he does. And for him, I don't think it was an option to downgrade the level, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, and I think I remember last year actually when we played against Tottenham at home, when Chadley scored, he actually lost the ball. I think the ball was played to him. It perhaps wasn't the best ball, but I remember he did lose the ball, and I think, he was quite disappointed with that. So I think this has kind of, it has helped him really. And I mean, would you say this was probably, thinking about his first spell as well, would you think this was one of his best performances in an Arsenal shirt? And I do remember one at Chelsea actually. I think the game ended 1-1, and Flamini scored the first goal, and I think Essien scored that 30-yarder. But generally, I know it was a while ago, a few years ago, but do you think this is one of his best performances?
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right. I think that's one of the best I've seen him playing in an Arsenal shirt. He obviously, his last season of the first spell had some really good games. Remember, he was, he could also play in other positions. And I think even when he came back the second spell, so 2 seasons ago, in his first season of the second spell, I thought he had some good games there, because I know, now it's becoming a bit of a joke of, him. Gary Neville, obviously, I don't think did him, a lot of service by his criticism on Monday Night Football, a couple of times. But I think he's an interesting player to have in your squad. I'm not saying that he can win you the league. I'm not saying he can win you the Champions League or anything like that.
Of course, yeah.
But he's a player that can, that you could rely on, and yes, sometimes he's not the best on the ball, and maybe he makes too many fouls and this and that, but he's a fighter. He can encourage people. He's never down. You concede a goal, he will be the first one to say, come on boys, we can come back in this game. Maybe, he's not Messi and he's not, Busquets or Mascherano, but, I think he could be important in a way in a season. Whether we saw that last night, whether it's in the next round of the League Cup, whether it's in the FA Cup, whether it's in the last 15 minutes of the game against Bayern Munich, when you need that 1-0 win that you have, and he will get there and work hard for the team. And I think, that's important for a team. He might never score again, but I think that's important. And you're right. I think the game last night, on Wednesday night, will give him a lot of confidence, and a lot of saying, okay, I've been working hard so far this season. I haven't played at all. And for my first game, I have a really good performance. I think he's going to give confidence to Wenger. He's going to give more confidence to the fans, who maybe for a little bit at least we stop laughing at him and saying, oh, the only thing he does is clapping his hands. And also for the rest of the team, because, they saw they could count on him. They saw they could rely on him. And the next time, comes round when, whenever he plays again, whether that's Leicester or United or whoever, then they know that, okay, he's coming on. He's on a good, he's on a good run of performances after the Spurs game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, another player who played last night, who you I think know, is Mathieu Debuchy. How would you assess his performance? I thought first half perhaps he was a bit slow to get going, but as the game went on, he definitely improved.
Yes, I agree with you, and I think people have to be a bit
patient,
kind. Kind is a lovely word, but maybe it's not appropriate too much, but. Patient. The guy's been out for 9 months last season. You can't expect him to come back, and to suddenly be Cafu or be the best right back in the world, because it's not going to happen. He's hardly played so far this season, and again, you can't expect him to step in and suddenly have the same stamina and the same energy and the same delivery and the same work rate than if he'd played every single minute so far this season and had all the rhythm that would have come with it. If you stop Bellerin playing for 9 months and then put him back on in the North London derby, he will have exactly the same game. Exactly the same game. Because when you don't have the rhythm, when you put under pressure by the opposition, especially playing away from home, especially in such a small pitch that lane is, when there's not much space and when every yard counts, basically, it looks very much more difficult. And, I think Joel Campbell, it's fair to say that didn't really, really help him defensively either. So suddenly Debuchy was starting a game like one of the toughest game of the season away from home against your enemy. Secondly, for only second or third appearances of the season, and third, being 2v1 for most of the game because Joel Campbell, never really thought about defending. So,
and he
not
was
easy.
Against Danny Rose actually, who was very offensive too.
Exactly. Exactly. So Shadley and Rose against him, most of the game. So, yes, it was not great, and yes, in the second half, it looked like, if Arsenal were going to lose the game, it was it would have been because of him, or at least because of his side of the defense. And maybe on the goal, he's not really well positioned. Well, not maybe. He's not well positioned at the start of the goal. He's a bit caught behind. But I think people have to be a bit patient. And in the end, Arsenal won the game with Debuchy. It'd be a very valuable game for him, to have played and to have seen where he's at really. Because before that, it was completely unknown. No one knew before, how he would deal with the opposition, how he would cope with the pressure, the intensity, the rhythm, and all of that. Now I think himself and Wenger and again the rest of the squad, everybody at the club, know a bit better where he's out, and that'd be very important for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Giles, what did you think of the game last night in general?
There's a lot. When I saw the lineups, I wasn't that worried. I was saying, lead up to the game, Wenger will pick a team that's capable of winning the game. It might not be the strongest 11 we want to see, but he's not going to pick a team that's going to go out with the intention of losing. I wasn't as worried as a lot of Gooners. The game itself was scrappy, but in an North London derby, winner takes all. I'll take that and the performance. I'll take the result and the performance. I don't want to see a rip-roaring, blistering 4-4 game like we saw at the Emirates a few years ago, where we were leading 4-2 or coming to the final years and drew 4-4. I don't want that. As for Debuchy and Flamini, my only question to you, Julien, is will they get enough chances, enough opportunities to improve on the games they just had? I mean, okay, Flamini, as you said, Matthew Flamini was much maligned because people saw him as a finger pointer, and last night he went from 0 to hero. But will he get more opportunities? What I'm saying, to actually improve on his performance last night, and also likewise Matthew Debuchy, because we all know that Bellerin is now the number one in that position. How many more games are we going to be seeing where Bellerin needs a rest and Debuchy can come in and get that fitness and that sharpness and get back into the rhythm of the game?
No, you're right, Giles, I think. And then the problem is more. I think it's more important for a right back than for a defensive midfielder. Flamini, the guy would run. The guy runs all his life. I think even when he'd be 75, 80, he'd still be running. In the park next to his house or something, because he just loves running. So
and you can imagine him still pointing at people.
Exactly, and clapping his hands and going like, the F word and this and that. Come on, and this and that. For Mathieu, however, you're right. I think that's the bigger issue. And even Didier Deschamps, at the beginning of the month when we were on international break, asked him the question, and he in his answer you could tell that as a right back, if he wants to go to the Euros as well, he needs to play. And if he doesn't play, then he will always lack that rhythm, and he will always be half of a second late. Like we saw a couple of times on Rose, going in his back and him tackling and just being always that half second to be short, because that only comes back with games. You can train as much as you want. It won't come back there. It can only come back if you play his game and if you have that rhythm of playing competitive games. Yeah. And that's my worry for him. But I don't know. It's hard to tell how many games he's going to play, because I don't want to wish anything bad to Bellerin, but there could always be a suspension, there could be an injury, there could be a bit of a dip in form like we've seen before for players, and then he would play. But you're right, it's a bit worrying at the start of the season after just several games in all competitions to see that he hasn't played much already, and it looks like Bellerin is already quite ahead of him in the pecking order. It's not if they were like the same level and you could think, okay, Wenger might go for Debuchy or might go for Bellerin. It looks like if Bellerin is 100% fair, it would always be picked ahead of Debuchy unless he needs a rest. So that's a bit worrying for me as well. And I think it is for Mathieu too.
It doesn't seem like the sort of Giroud versus Walcott type fight where you'll see enough of each other.
Can I just ask one question before you move on, Akhil? recently, Debussy said something along the lines of, he sort of intimated that he wasn't happy with the situation of being the number 2 right back, if you will. I wonder if he's come the end of the season, he might assess his situation if things don't improve. Also with Jenkinson doing well and getting games at West Ham and the younger rival, do you see Debussy still having a future at Arsenal, or do you think come the summer, you know, if he doesn't get into the French squad for the Euro 2016, he might live to move on?
Yeah, you're right. It's a very good question. You know, I think I really like him as a player. I think he's got a very good quality on the ball, you know, in his crossing and thing. I think the 2 injuries, which were freak injuries, by the way, you know, he can play again for 50 years and never get the 2 injuries that he had, you know, the one on his own, and then the push by Arnautovic against the shoulder, which was completely ridiculous. So, you know, they were freak injuries, but that slowed him down big time in terms of, you know, his improvement as a player, but also the momentum he was on and everything, because it's really hard to be out for such a long time, you know, when you are at such a big club as well. So I think whatever happened this season, you know, especially if he doesn't play much, I'm pretty sure that he will look at it in the summer, and maybe January as well, I don't know, you know, and think, okay, what do I do now? Because he wouldn't want to have another season where he plays 15 games, you know, or 20 games. He would want to have a full season where he play 45 to 55 games, be involved in, you know, in every big games, whether the derbies in the league or, you know, FA Cup finals, Champions League big games or things like that. I think that's the games he wants to play. And again, he's a fighter, you know, things have never been easy for him through his career, and I'm, you know, I really think that he's going to fight for his place and he's going to give it a good go with Bellerin. You know, I think Bellerin has done really well. He's obviously younger. He's probably a bit quicker as well, but he lacks a bit of experience that Mathieu Debussy has, for example, you know, and I wouldn't be surprised, you know, on certain games where, you know, it's really intense and there's a lot of stakes. If Wenger thinks, hang on, maybe I should stick with the more experienced guy there instead of the younger one that's very promising, of course, and, you know, and rising and all of that, but maybe a bit of experience there would be very beneficial to the team. And that's why I think Debussy still has a big role to play in the season for Arsenal, because I think there would be games where Wenger fancies him maybe a bit more than Bellerin.
Yeah, it's definitely a long season, and you know we're playing every 3 games now, so 3 days, sorry, and Christmas time. I'm sure he'll get some game time. Another player I want to talk about, and I know everyone has talked about the sort of Diego Costa and Gabriel and all that sort of stuff, but you know, seeing as I'm talking to you and seeing as I know you kind of know Laurent Koscielny, I'm just interested to know what in his mind, how he would have kind of felt after that incident, because obviously he was the one involved. I think most people would agree he did very, very well not to react. I mean, he had 2 hands in his face, he had a slap, and then he got kind of put to the ground. But, you know, how do you think he kind of reacted with that? Do you think, you know, that calmness he showed on the outside was the same inside, or do you think inside maybe he was really stopping himself from going for Costa?
Yeah, he hasn't spoken about it yet,
okay.
So I don't know.
What do you think?
There was a few texts, and he only said he was obviously very disappointed by the result and by the way the game went. I think, you know, he's very what's the words? He's
calm, passionate.
Yeah, no, he's so focused and so concentrated in everything he does, you know, on the pitch, even if sometimes he looks like he's a bit running everywhere, but he's actually very focused. And I think he would have stayed in his game. And obviously, you know, he would have felt the slap in the face and the push and all of that, and the aggression that Costa showed. But I think he would have stayed in his game and not really focused about anything else. He knows now, you know, what Diego Costa is like, and I think he's always dealt very well with it. And again, he did it last weekend. But yeah, I'm looking forward to having a chat with him to see exactly. But I know that he would have stayed so focused. He would have been so focused on his game, you know, and on himself, that he wouldn't have looked at anything outside of that. You know, he paid a heavy price with France when he was sent off against Ukraine in the first leg of of our World Cup 2014 playoff, for reacting to exactly the same kind of thing that Costa did. And I think he learned the lesson, and I don't think we'll ever see him again losing his nerves like he did with France on that day.
Yeah.
Because, on that he lost his place, in the team to Mamadou Sakho, who then went on and scored 2 goals in the second leg that put us through to the World Cup. And after that, he was not playing as often as he used to before the red card. So I think that really he learned a lot from that mistake with France. And that's why I think I was really, I knew he wouldn't react to Diego Costa, and I was really happy he didn't, because he showed he learned the lesson from that red card against Ukraine.
Yeah, and I mean, just generally on Laurent Koscielny, and I don't want you to kind of say anything that will get you in trouble with your relationship with him, but do you think he's quite happy at Arsenal? Do you think he's enjoying being pretty much, number one choice, being sort of, a lot of people put him in the top bracket of defenders in England sort of thing, he's up there. Do you think he's enjoying life in England, in London with Arsenal?
Yeah, of course he is, yeah. He loves the club, he loves the squad of players there. For every Arsenal fan who I've seen, and if they don't, I encourage them to go and see that thing he did with Per Mertesacker when he was commentating on Arsenal Gold, the website, which is a fantastic feature. Yeah. And you see those two, singing the Olivier Giroud song, which is hilarious. Shows you how well he feels in that squad and in that dressing room, where, he has a very important role because he's very respected by everybody else, and he's one of the leaders, despite not being the biggest talker of all. But he's very happy. The thing is, with 2 FA Cups under his belt now, he wants more. He wants more of those trophies, and he wants them with Arsenal. And he has a lot of respect for Arsene Wenger because he owes him a lot. He's the guy who came to get him at Lorient when he was, he was not playing for France. He was only playing mid-table in French football. And that was it, so he owes a lot to the club. He owes a lot to Wenger. He has a very good relationship with him and with everybody else at the club. There's no doubt he's happy here. His family is happy in London as well. Yeah. And I don't even think we've seen the best of him. I think he's someone, because he was such a late bloomer, I think he's someone who will improve until very late in his career, because he trains as well, and that's what he wants. He wants to improve, and I think we can, I think we see already in terms of there was times in the past where he used to give silly fouls away, penalties as well sometimes. Yeah. And he's cut that off his game, you can see. And I think Steve Bull has been a very good influence on him. And it's been great working together for Laurent, because you could see how much he's improved he still anticipates as much as he used to. And I think that's his main strength, and that will never change. Yeah. And that's why he works so well with Per, because Per is the complete opposite. And because Per is too slow to anticipate anything anyway. But that's why they go so well together. But I think you could see already how much he's improved in how he approaches every game. Before and during as well. Yeah.
Giles, who plays alongside Koscielny now? We've got a big game against Leicester on Saturday, and providing the Gabriel situation today, if he, if he appeals, whatever ban he gets, say he doesn't get a ban, but say even if he does, it's 1 game fine. Who plays against Man United the week after, or generally who plays in the big game against Koscielny? Gabriel, Mertesacker.
For me, Saturday, looking at the pace and trickery of Leicester's front line, Mahrez, Vardy, and the other guy, I can't remember his name, from South Korea, I would go with Gabriel if he's eligible to play.
Do you think it's going to be a situation a little bit like Walcott and Giroud, where you pick who's suited to the opposition? Or do you think centre-backs need that sort of, we talked about Debussy and right-backs needing that competition and that being familiar with your partner? Is it the same?
I think it's very important that you have a familiarity with your partner in centre back. I don't think it's good to chop and change as much because they have to work in tandem. As Julien said, you could see why Koscielny and Mertesacker played so well. Koscielny was the aggressive one, the anticipator, and Mertesacker was better at sweeping up. It would be interesting to see who out of Gabriel and Koscielny becomes the aggressive anticipator, and who reads the game better as sort of a sweeper behind. I don't know what you think about that, Julien.
Julien?
I mean, I think it's a very interesting debate. I think it's good for Wenger to have, some options in that central defense. I think, Chambers, I know he scored 2 own goals in 2 games and he was really unlucky, but, I think there's a lot of good in him. And I think he's still, he's still very young. But I think, as much as people can talk about John Stones, I think, Callum Chambers has a great future ahead of him if he keeps working hard like he's been doing. Even if he doesn't play as much as he would like, for example. I think there's a lot of talent in him, and I think you can't really rule him out in those rotations who do you play in central defense. I think Giles makes a great point about, Gabriel being, faster than Mertesacker, to play against, quick forwards of the opposition like Leicester or like other, other players in other teams. I do think though that Mertesacker and Koscielny, because of the experience they have together, because of the experience they have full stop, and, have an advantage over any other, pairs or partnerships in that central defense. And I wouldn't be surprised if on Saturday and then, for the following big games that Arsenal have, that they're both back in the team.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to keep you too long, Julien. But another sort of question, I know a lot of people have been talking about it, is the role of Thierry Henry at the club. So he's been obviously at Hairlender a fair bit. He's been coaching. I can't remember who was saying it, but someone was actually saying that he used to go once a week, but he actually asked if he could come more. And he's obviously been allowed to go more. So I think it was Adrian Clark actually telling me that. But what's Thierry's role and how's he doing and what do you think the future holds for him? Because even as a pundit, people have been quite strong in their opinion, and I'm not sure if that's for him or sort of thing. What do you think he's going to do, and how do you think his influence is at Arsenal?
Well, I think he's obviously still very much welcome at the club, which is normal. He's the greatest player that's ever played for the club. So he wants to learn. He wants to coach. He wants to start coaching kids. And I think, whether you're 16, 17, 18, whether you're Alexis Sanchez or Iwobi or a kid from the academy or my son who's 6, I think anyone could do with some help by Thierry Henry and some advice. That's normal. Like anyone could do with, any advice of, Zidane or Maradona or whoever. Yeah. So I think it's valuable to have him. And I think, maybe something that the club didn't do enough in the past, relying on ex-players, on big players that the club has had before, and giving them some roles, whatever it is of, advising youngsters or, watching the opposition or, I don't know, anything. But, so I think Thierry, should be there to help like he's doing, whether again it's the first team, the reserves, the under 18 or even younger than that. I think it's great to still have him at the club and not seeing him doing that kind of job at Barcelona, for example, or in New York, in Monaco or wherever the other clubs he went through. But it's good to have him doing that at Arsenal. I think that'd be interesting for the club and for the players at the club. And I think it's great for him as well because, the only way he can find out if he wants to be a coach one day is by starting like he's doing now. That's the way everybody has started. So, he will have a taste of it, and hopefully he is doing all his badges, I believe. So, so one day we'll have the badges and be ready maybe to take over the reserves at Arsenal or somewhere else in the lower leagues or maybe even a first team somewhere. Someone will always give him a chance, and then we can see. In terms of punditry, I obviously work for the opposition, so I can't really comment too much on what Sky Sports are doing. And I haven't even heard him much because the games he's on, I'm usually out as well, or I'm working, like I said, on BT Sports. So I don't know if he enjoys it, I wish him good luck and everything. Yeah. I think people are a bit harsh anyway when it comes to football pundits. Not just him, but Jamie Redknapp and Gary Neville and Andy Townsend and Michael Owen and everybody. I think everybody always think they can do better than them, but it's a hard job. Whether you're an ex-big player or whether you're not, it's a tough job and I really think it's harder than what people think.
Yeah. I mean, you touched upon sort of your BT Sports work and stuff, but I mean, how has that gone and how is sort of hosting Champions League coverage? I did see the night before the Arsenal game, you were on sort of the Newsy channel and BT Sport had 2 games live. Are you enjoying it? What's it like working for BT at the moment?
Yes, yeah, it's amazing. Obviously, it's very exciting to be covering the Champions League. When I was a kid, that's what I wanted to do. And if when I was 5 or 6, someone had told me one day you'll be on television, in England and commentating and doing the commentary on Champions League games, I would have never believed this. So I'm really happy that, I can do that now, and I hope people, have enjoyed the show and will enjoy the show that we do. It's a very unique show. No one has never done it before, in the UK, where, you can see every goal as they happen, every chance, every red card, every opportunity, every talking point. We bring you everything to you, as like I said, live as they happen, and no one has never done that before. So the feedback we've had on Twitter and social network has been incredible. So it looked like people have liked it, and technically we can always improve. We can always improve as Penny as well with Rafa and James and the other James as well presenting it. So I just hope people will we keep watching and keep enjoying it, because I think if your team is not playing on that night, if it's not, if there's no Arsenal game and you're a big Arsenal fan, but you want to see how United are doing, how Juventus are doing, how PSG are doing, you like Ibra, you like Morata, you like Cristiano, I don't know, whoever, then you turn on to us and we show you everything that all those players are doing. So I think it's a great idea, and I'm really happy that they've given it to us.
Good stuff. And because you talked for 3 minutes about BT Sports, we expect that check in the post for advertising. Thank you very much. Okay, finally, this is the final sort of point, but where do you think Arsenal are right now? Obviously, they've had an interesting week, a tough week. They've had players sent off. They've had kind of a big North London derby win. How is the season going? How would you assess it right now for Arsenal?
I think that, it's only the start of the season. I think there've been some really good things, and then there've been some more disappointing things. But that's the same for every club. I think that once again, exactly like last year, the league will be very open. I don't really believe that Man City are far too strong for everybody else. I don't think that's true, and we saw that last weekend. Where they were beaten, and I think again, Arsenal could win the league, like Chelsea, like City, like United as well. I think it's really open between those 4 clubs. There won't be anyone else, but I think between those 4 clubs, it will only be a case of taking the opportunities that come. Whether that's winning, both games against City, Chelsea, United, and then doing well against the smaller teams if you want. Whether that is, just giving valuable points away from home and being strong at home. But I think that those 4 teams are all in a shot to win the league. Obviously, City have some sort of advantage above, over everybody, over the other teams because of their better start. But I don't think they're unbeatable at all. I don't think they're invincibles, and I think they will drop points like everybody else will. So I think, I think they're there. I think in the Champions League, it always looked, a tougher group to finish top because of Bayern Munich. But and obviously the start of it was very disappointing. There's still the 2 cups. I think it's a great season to be part of. And if Alexis Sanchez starts scoring again, and if defensively, Arsenal gets strong again, and better check in goal is great, and he's at the level that he should be at the club. I think there's everything there to have a very good season. But then again, you don't know what can happen in terms of injuries, in terms of suspension, in terms of individual form. Because if Alexis stays like that all season, which I don't think will happen, obviously, the team, that will affect the team. Because for Arsenal to reach all those highs, you need Alexis at his best, like it was last season, or even probably better than last season. So there's still a bit of unknown there and there. But I think overall there's everything there, for them to have a very good season.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you for your predictions now, both of you. So it's literally a one-word answer. Who's going to win the Champions League? Jules?
Barcelona.
Ooh, okay. Giles?
Not Tottenham.
Well, obviously.
I couldn't tell you.
What about a guess?
Guess it's not going to be Barcelona. I don't think they're going to repeat it. I think it's going to be, I don't know, Real.
Yeah. Okay. The Premier League. Jules?
You see, I said Chelsea at the start of the season, and now obviously I look like a right nut. So just because I'm man of a word, I would stick with Chelsea because I still think they can turn things around, even if it'd be very difficult.
Okay, Giles.
Not Arsenal. City.
Okay, who's going to win the Carling Cup as with the competitions now started? Jules?
Arsenal.
Or Capital One Cup, whatever it's called. Arsenal. Oh, interesting. First time under Wenger, if so. Giles?
Yeah, Arsenal.
Okay. Will Patrick Vieira ever do a role at Arsenal? Jules?
Yes, I want him to. I hope so. I don't know. He looks like... It doesn't really look like he's on the cards. It looks more like he could have a role at City. I know it was a one-word answer, but... Yes, please. I hope so.
Yeah, please. Yeah, we all agree. Please.
We all agree on that one.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you, Giles. Final question. Saturday we go to Leicester away. Who plays up front? Giroud or Walcott? Jules, sorry.
Walcott.
Giles?
Yeah, Walcott.
Okay. On that note, we will call this to an end. Julian, thank you for joining us.
A pleasure, anytime, boys.
Yep, thank you. We will be calling you again. Don't worry about that. Probably the next time Mr Flamini plays and scores 2 goals. So we might be waiting a while, but you never know. Giles, thank you as ever.
Thanks for hosting.
Okay.
Great.
No problem at all. That's been your lot, and we'll speak to you soon. Up the Arsenal.
Up the Arsenal.
Bye.